Hello, so I've had a PICC line in for the last 4 months and I'm finally getting it out here shortly. But I'm just wanting to talk a little bit about my experience with the PICC line these last 4 months. And just if you have any questions, you can leave them down in the comments below and I'll be more than happy to answer them. But backstory of what happened is I tore my pec 2 years ago. A year later, there ended up being a hole in my shoulder and there was drainage coming out. I ended up having a surgery and it didn't really turn out too well. My wound was not healing. It was just a big open wound that was bleeding and purule and drainage was coming out. So my surgeon decided to put me on oral or IV antibiotics that I had to have pretty much 24/7. So when that happens, they put you on a PICC line. So what this does is it's a little catheter that goes all the way to above the heart, so you can distribute any type of antibiotic or anything that you're getting from, I guess, the IV. And it's good to stay in for a long period of time. So that's, I guess, the biggest benefit of it is you don't have to get an IV poke every single day. I had a cadd bag, so it's a little bag that has a strap around my neck, and it had the antibiotics that was pumping into this 24/7. I did that for 6 weeks and there was absolutely no change to my body. This was not healing and I ended up having another surgery. So the second surgery, we removed suture anchors from that very first surgery and it started to clear itself up, but I was still had to PICC line in and I was ordered more antibiotics. So I had an oral antibiotic, which really messed my body up, but I also had an IV antibiotic again, but this time without having the bag. There was a nurse. I go into the hospital every day and a nurse would push through IV antibiotics over the course of 5 minutes or so through that. So I much preferred that, just going into the hospital and getting the procedure done, versus still going to the hospital every day when I had that bag and getting the bag changed out every single day. That was not too fun. But in the end, I think it worked, maybe. I know my body really wanted the suture anchors out, so I think that was what really did it for me in healing my body. But it did take quite some time and I had the PICC line in that whole time. It does get very uncomfortable at times. The first week or so after I had it put in, especially the first 2 days after getting the PICC line inserted, my whole arm was like painful and kind of inflamed. I could barely even bend it or move it. Now it's fine. I'm moving around like there's no issue at all. But prior to that, I could not. I was just physically grossed out and couldn't really move it in the same way. But it does get better. So if you just got one put in, you're dealing with some pain, it'll get better. It just takes a little bit of time, unfortunately. But after that time, it starts to get a little bit more bearable. The only issue is when you're sleeping, you can't, like, I'm a side sleeper. You can't sleep on this like you used to, sleep on your arm. Unfortunately, since it's going all the way up and above the right atrium, if you push into it too much, you can cause the tip of the catheter to go into the right atrium of the heart, and it caused heart palpitations for me. So this was very unfortunate. Like, if I was just laying and I rolled a certain way, it would start fluttering and I had to jump around and change positions. And this is something that happened multiple times, unfortunately. So it took some getting used to. It's really weird because I also couldn't sleep on this side due to having a huge open wound that was bleeding. So I laid on my back a lot while I was recovering. And downside to that is when you fall asleep, sometimes your body just wants to roll over. My body had a weird habit of rolling onto the PICC line arm, which would prompt me to wake up from the palpitations in my heart. It didn't feel good, to put it, I guess, that way. So I would oftentimes wake up in the middle of the night with the heart palpitations from the tip of the PICC line poking my heart. Not a fun thing, and definitely not something you want to have happening too often, because it's uncomfortable when it happens, but it weirds me out too. So yeah, it was not a good time, but now after 4 months, I am finally getting this darn thing out, so it's going to feel amazing. But yeah, that's my story. And again, if you have any questions at all, please leave them below, because I'd be more than happy to share my experience with this darn thing. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button below, and I'll see you in the next video.